Melissa, you asked me a really great question of what gets in an entrepreneur's way in launching a business. And my answer was confidence, as is the answer to almost any question that you ask me. But specifically, I want to break this down a little bit, and then we can dialogue a little bit about the conversation we had before. So I see entrepreneurs saying a couple things. I don't have the knowledge I need to launch a business. I've heard so many people say, I don't have an MBA. I think I should go get an MBA before launching my business. And I'm like, please don't do that. I have an MBA, and not one, zero, nothing that I learned in my MBA program taught me how to become a successful entrepreneur. It taught me how to manage people and work within an organization. But MBAs, and there are specific master's programs for entrepreneurship now, but this is not stuff you need to learn in school. So I don't have the knowledge. I am scared to put myself out there, right? That's a scary thing to say. I'm doing this thing. You announce it to the world.
Yes.
And then everybody's looking at you to do the thing, right? So putting yourself on display. All of this rolls back up into confidence. And as tandem to that, worried about what people will say, as I call the naysayers. You're worried about, and oftentimes the naysayers are the closest people to you. They can be your spouse, they could be, your mother, right? And perfectionism, and wanting to make it beautiful and perfect before I open the curtain and share this with the world. I believe all of those roll up into confidence.
Yes. It's interesting to me that if I've learned anything from our chat about the business plan, right, and everything that comes after that, it's a living, breathing entity. So to think that it would ever be perfect or done or just roll out and be the star of the show and not need any tweaking or make any mistakes it's a little bit crazy to think like that. But, I think it's also natural to have that be the first thought. Is there are lots of boxes to check. And if I can just keep checking all those boxes, then I'm going to feel better because it's going to be stronger. And that means maybe it's less risky, or people will love it more, or it's foolproof. I think about your first example with skill set, and it brings up imposter syndrome, right? People thinking maybe even if they do have the skill set, they might be too scared to do it. Not having the certificate or degree, but having the skill set. And it's funny because you're like, in my education, like I learned about these things, not about this. I mean, being educated and knowing something can be very different. Our experience is the thing that's going to teach us a lot. And hopefully we're being taught from others' experiences because they could be sharing and impacting in that way. Typically, traditionally, education can turn into read a book, take a test. We found the formula. You need to learn the formula and uphold it, because also somebody might get really upset if they said, how many years ago I had to build a business plan. I had to do it this way. And now it's just easier for you guys. Well, that's not fair. Like, well, that doesn't mean that I have to suffer and do everything the way you did. I can self-teach. I can ask people questions. I can find mentors. I can start building and experimenting. And one of my mantras for years and things that I shared with students when I was teaching was find a way. And this was echoed back to me years into teaching. I was at a manager retreat in Zurich, Switzerland for a very large company. And I was sharing some ideas about how I think company and culture and the way we educate could just be different. And I'm just dreaming off the top of my head. And the woman looking at me says very seriously and frankly, and she says, if you believe strongly in that, go make that happen. I was like, whoa. Guess what? I was also working in a place where it was not going to happen easily. And I fought and tried as much as I could. So I was like, well, I guess I need to go step out and do that. And it was a reminder that, I can find a way to do those things that are important to me. And what happens is by trusting the process along the way and knowing why those things matter, the confidence can be built along the way as well, right? It's in taking the risk that you get confidence, and confidence has to be constantly cultivated. You don't get to be confident 1 minute and just like you assumed your business was going to be fine, your confidence is going to be there forever. It can take dips as well. And so there have been moments that I've said, oh, this isn't something I know how to do, or I'm not comfortable with it. But I do know that I'm a very creative thinker and I like to solve problems and I'm comfortable with people. So I'm going to start talking to people and I'm going to find a way to make this work. And that can solve a lot of this. It can remove a barrier for me. That's one way through this imposter syndrome is, who's to say you have to do it that way anyway? Because the idea of like, you're an imposter is that there's also a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. To really break down what schooling can be, and what some of my classes definitely were, was the teacher deciding that this was the list of readings and these were the questions that were important to ask and these were how the discussions were going to go. So I'll create the list. I'll get curious and ask the questions. I'll have those conversations, and I've just taught myself. There might be a lot of people going into the naysayer part a little bit from that skill set. That's a really comfortable reason to have that certificate as well, right? Is to say, here's the proof. I've done the work, I've done the effort, I've paid the money. Now you can trust or believe in me. And because I have your support, now I trust and believe in myself even more. Not to say that we shouldn't be proud of those certificates that we do have when we did earn them, but there are lots of ways to earn them. And you know if you're putting in that effort. I think that it's a really vulnerable place to come from, to put things out there and to say, I like to say, start somewhere. I love the start before you're ready. Spend 15 minutes today doing that thing. Stop thinking that you're going to have a plan, or there's going to be a time, or someone's going to someday come to you because they get it. It says you need to be doing it. You need to be in it. You need to be, I kind of call it like obsessing, right? When you're just obsessed and there's something you can't get over and you're passionate about it. Because then if an opportunity comes up, you've been doing it, you have the language, you've been practicing the conversations, you're ready now all of a sudden. Or go make the structure that you don't see yet, right? And that's where a lot of our businesses, our small businesses can feel really powerful, is they said, here's a need, it's not out there in the world, I'm going to go create that thing.
Part of our conversations have been as well, we see in this kind of failure to launch, the paralyzed, all the things we just talked about, right? So to your point, just take that first step, right? Mm-hmm. A million quotes around this, but, just, by putting some framework around what that first step is going to be. That's why I started the Steps to Startup program, the 17 foundational steps, right? There is a cadence to launching a business. There are some boxes you have to check, but it doesn't mean you have to wait until you're at step 17 to actually pull the curtain open, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so, just at HeraHub, we are great at helping people with those first couple steps, kind of pushing the boat off the dock a little bit, giving them some momentum. And it's a lot easier, and you build confidence. Confidence is not given, it's earned, right? And you're not going to earn that confidence until you take a few of those baby steps towards your goal. We learned that in the book, The Confidence Code, which we both love.
Love that book.
Just recently read. Yes, exactly. And so, you have to get that momentum. Momentum is so critically important. I think a couple other things that are really important for people who are, taking those first steps into launching is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, period. End of story. Entrepreneur is messy. It's hard. You're going to take 2 steps forward and 1 step back constantly. You have to be comfortable that, yes, there are some boxes you have to check, but the path is going to be very squiggly, right? And so you have to be comfortable with that. And something you and I have also talked about, you have to be willing to spend money and to let go of things, hire your weaknesses. And that is one of the biggest mistakes I see female entrepreneurs make, is they try to do it all. Part of it is proving that they can do it all, right? I'm going to build my website. I'm going to set up my QuickBooks. I'm going to do all these things that they have no experience doing. Whereas if they would just allocate the money and invest in themselves and their business to have somebody do it right, they would be so much further, faster, and to revenue generation faster, and be able to pull the curtain open faster than trying to poke and prod and learn everything on your own. You said who, not how. And I love that.
Yeah. There's a book about it.
Yeah.
And though I haven't finished the book, what I actually appreciate about it is the writer of the book is not actually the writer of the information. Even the author hired someone to ghostwrite for him. And he said, I'm not a writer.
Yeah.
You do this for me. But we are going to write it. Right. And that I really love, because while I can say, find a way, right? Find a way to make it happen, especially at the beginning, especially when I'm excited. I want to learn how to do that thing. I want to know what those numbers mean. If someone asks me, I want to be able to have an answer to why that's working or what's happening or why it didn't work. I want to have my fingers in all the pies and control everything. But at some point, if I'm too focused in one or two, or if I'm putting a lot of my energy into one or two areas, because those are not my natural areas or things that bring me joy, so I'm motivated to do them anyway, or take less energy from me, which means I have more energy to give. If these things are sucking my time and my energy and everything else, they're getting the most of me, which means the areas where my business could be thriving and growing and doing really well is getting less of me. And as soon as I say, help, either can you help me? Do you know someone who, or here's a paycheck, I need this done. Those things can, it gets the energy sucking moments out of the way. It allows you the freedom to really focus on your business. And I know some people still want to work in the business. It's not necessarily, it doesn't have to mean your hands off in operations, right? But having a team, paying for services, asking for help are all, I think, really important things. And I think you're right. There's something about the female tendency to not delegate, to want to be all things to all people at all times, to say we did it. And I just ask, what are we overcompensating for in that moment? We don't have to do it all. So why do we want to do it all? Like, what is the drive? Is it us trying to overcompensate? Maybe that's even the bigger question. Maybe it's something else. If your answer is yes, go do it differently. Just try it. It's fun to being comfortable with being uncomfortable. I try to think about how people can practice this, because I like when we use our bodies to learn, and I think it's helpful for our brains. Live theater productions, comedy shows, I get a lot of anxiety because I did so much stage work. And I used to always be behind stage, and I was the one that knew every costume piece, every set piece, where something was supposed to be, who was 30 seconds late on stage, right? I was back there knowing all the stuff. And one night my professor said, hey, you've been doing a great job. Tonight you need to be in the audience. And I said, no, absolutely not. Like, who's going to do all the stuff? And she goes, no, it's been running successfully. It's fine. I'm like, because I'm here. And she goes, this is not about you. You're coming to sit in the audience. And she sat me in the audience and she made me be uncomfortable and have no control. And it was really, really nice, because while I still had that like kind of stress, anxious moment, oh man, he came out, his glove is not on. Does it matter that his glove is not on? Nobody in this audience knows that was a costume designer's design choice, because he's still here and he's still delivering his lines. There was another moment where he's supposed to kick his cane and it makes a circle, and then he lands on it again. And when he kicked it, it snapped in half. Well, I'm panicking. The actor didn't panic at all. He found a way to make it work because that's his job. And it was really one of the best things she did to teach me about my role was pulling me out of my role and making me watch it and making me sit in my discomfort in that moment. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in a long time.
That's a great example. And it brings up another example, a practical example I think I can give for how to get comfortable with being uncomfortable is go do improv.
Yes.
Improvisational comedy. Go do improv. Sign up for an improv class. Don't just sign up for one. Sign up for a series of classes. Show up every week, even if it's just on Zoom.
Yeah.
You can find an improv class in your community and go and show up. That will absolutely, I can't guarantee it, but I can imagine that will help you get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
It will also boost creativity and confidence. I have never taken an improv class. I think it is easily the next thing that I could be doing to grow myself.
Absolutely.
And wherever we post this, if someone challenges me, I will accept the challenge.